So we're gathered here today, this evening, for the 29th anniversary of the assassination of R Meir Kahane Hy. His yahrzeit will be tomorrow night, Friday night, Parshas Vayera, Shabbos, and the 18th of Cheshvan, which some people like to call Chai Cheshvan. So Chai means life, and that's why we say Od Kahane Hy, because even though he was murdered and assassinated, and they tried to silence his voice and his truth, the Jewish idea, the authentic Torah Jewish idea of Torah true Judaism cannot be silenced. It cannot be ended. It is eternal, like the Jewish people are eternal, like Eretz Yisrael belonging to the Jewish people is eternal, because God is eternal, and He has determined, and He has covenanted, made a bris with Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, our patriarchs, our avos, and has made a bris with the whole Jewish people at Mount Sinai, at Har Sinai, when He gave us the Torah many years ago, 3,300 plus years ago. And we're here assembled in order to pay tribute to R Meir Kahane of blessed memory, Hashem Yenakum Damav, who on the 18th of Cheshvan, 29 years ago, November 5th, 1990, was gunned down after he gave a lecture, a shir, a speech about making Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. And I just thought today, we've done other things on the yahrzeit, given over his teachings, and I'd like to start where we left off a few years ago, and I would like to begin a series of lectures. It may not be every week, but it'll be continuous with some rhythm, and we are going to endeavor to give over some of his words. But I have two shirim of his that I've transcribed from his lectures that you can see online on YouTube. One is called The Yoke of Heaven, which is the second shir, which I will endeavor to also give over in the coming weeks and months. And this shir, which is called Why Be Jewish. I'm choosing this for the yahrzeit, for the resumption of our classes. I'm choosing it because here in this lecture, which was one of his last lectures, shirim that he gave, classes that he gave, he presented an overview of what his political movement, what his party, Koach, was all about. And I'm going to let him do the talking. I'm not going to be the one here telling you what he said. I'm going to read out the transcript, pausing to add things that I think are germane to help the listener, viewer, to understand a little better, a little deeper, what R Meir was saying so many years ago. He gave this lecture in the summer of 1990, again, November 5th, 1990 was when he was murdered. And essentially, the Koach movement, as we all know, or those of us in the know, the Koach movement was banned in 1988 from running in the Knesset elections. And it was not because of the bald-faced lie that the Israeli government, the Supreme Court, gave that his party was racist. Meir Kahane says that's an outrage. He says, I don't hate the Arabs because they are Arabs. That would be racism. I hate them because they want to kill us and steal our land from us. And they want to destroy Torah and then Judaism and the whole Jewish people worldwide. And it's only gotten worse in the last 30 years since he was speaking these words out. He's only been proven over and over again, a million times over, that he was right, Kahane Tzadak, that he was correct. And it bears out his words in his own defense that his only crime, if you're going to call it that, was the painful musar, the reproof of Jews and the state of Israel, when he would single out the terrible dichotomy and schizophrenic nature of the Jewish state, that he said you have to choose. You're not able to have both. Eat your cake and have it too. Either Israel is going to be a democracy with full rights for every citizen, and then it's not going to be a Jewish state, or it's going to be a Jewish state and democracy is going to be just for the Jews, and nobody else is allowed to vote or have a say in what a Jewish state does unless they're Jewish. And then it was open to all Jews if they're legitimately Jews, either born Jewish from a Jewish mother or converted according to Torah law. Then they have a say wherever they live in the world. That was another thing he would say. Just because they are not presently living in Eretz Israel, it's their heritage too. Or if they convert legitimately, authentically, it's their heritage that they've adopted. And therefore they have just as much a say as anybody else in Klal Yisrael. It doesn't matter if you're living in the country club called the State of Israel, which is run by a fiefdom of powerful forces of the labor Zionists and now Likud over all these 75 years. So the air needs to be cleared here. Kahane Hy, which was Binyamin Kahane's reiteration after his father was murdered, when he tried to get going again, and Koach, the two banned parties, which give the lie, by the way, to that there is any sense of democracy in Israel, real democracy, if you can just willy-nilly just ban a party because you're afraid of how many votes they're going to get, which is the real reason, which is push comes to shove, the fear and the threat that they felt that he was going to get 10 or 11 seats in 1988, and all the kids in the Sephardic communities and all the kids coming in, the younger kids coming into the IDF in the next 4 years. By 92, he's going to have not 200,000 votes and 10 seats. He's going to have 400,000 votes and 20 seats or whatever. He was a juggernaut, about to take off, no different than Begin when he came to power unexpectedly and with full momentum, and brought Likud into power, and which they have stayed in power all these years since 1977, when Begin first, with few exceptions going back to labor, for just partial times, or a mixed government with labor and Likud in it, a government of national insanity, of national disunity, of Meir used to call it. And so I just would like to start, it's long, and we're not going to do it all tonight. This will be part one of giving in his words over the shiur that he gave, explaining himself, clearing the air, clarifying his positions, what Koach stood for and was all about. And this will be a fitting tribute on the 29th, and hopefully by the 30th Yortzeit, which is obviously a significant amount of time, it's an entire generation according to some opinions, is not 25 years but 30 years. There is an opinion that a generation in our lifespans is 25 years. But certainly by 30 years, that's one generation, leaving and another assuming the mantle of leadership. And he says in this shiur, which is online, which you can hear from him, obviously better than I can give it over. So he started out and he said, since Koach is primarily, first and foremost, an ideological movement and not a political party, he prided himself on the fact